get the same level of quality.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is though that the MetaQuest, and this is where we start to get into the abstract. The MetaQuest headset, from a visual perspective, has the same, if not better, visual quality than the Vive Pro Eye headset that we use here in store. Really, the only difference visually between the two is that the $2,000 headset that we use in store here has a 98-degree field of view, whereas the MetaQuest has a 89-degree field of view. So you lose about 10 degrees of peripheral view in the MetaQuest headset. But the pixel count and the quality of the image is the same 4K resolution as the Vive Pro headset. So the only limiting factor there for the at-home gamer is that they don't have, for the most part, don't have the $4,000 to $6,000 gaming PC that can run and process these experiences and deliver it to that headset. So that's really the limiting factor for the at-home gamer right now.
Awesome. Thanks for going into that. You talked a little bit about the partnerships that you made there with the universities. I think you said Ohio State and Ubisoft. I mean, I played some Ubisoft games before. What other partnerships? I imagine, where we're talking about cloud computing and stuff like that, that you're going into a whole new realm. What other partnerships have you made in the process?
Yeah, it's been pretty wild. We've started out, it was just us working with Ubisoft, doing these VR escape rooms with Ubisoft. But once we started to get into this cloud space and trying to figure out how to solve this problem for the at-home VR gamer, we started to get a lot of attention from other, big businesses that thought what we were doing was cool. So like you said there, we've got Ohio State University that we work with regularly, Shawnee State University, which I'm going to speak down there in 2 weeks. Kent State University. I'm actually meeting with the dean of Ohio University next week, Wednesday, to potentially become a satellite learning facility for Ohio University, which would be really cool. But that's, we're talking a little ways from now. But anyway, so we've got a lot of the university level computer engineering degrees interested in what we're doing because it is so cutting edge. It is so, a lot of people see the potential for VR and training and gaming, but getting that experience to the end user is where the gap is. That's where a lot of these developers don't continue to make content. That's why you see a lot of these, things falling short, and it's because there's not a solid way for the great content to get to the end user without all of the setup at home. So yeah, with universities, we've got a lot of attention. Rev1 Ventures is our venture capital firm that we've linked with, and they, obviously see the potential in what we're doing. But then in the industry itself, we've had Amazon has been phenomenal. They rolled out the red carpet once they found out what we were trying to do. I've been in meetings with everybody over there at Amazon AWS, and they're, they love what we're doing. They can't wait to see this grow. They see it as an amazing use case for cloud computing. So, to that end, we're part of AWS's Activate program. And then, along with that, we linked up with NVIDIA because NVIDIA is the company that develops these graphic instances for Amazon. So once Amazon found out what we were doing, they linked us up with NVIDIA to see how we could work together. And NVIDIA has been phenomenal as well, giving us some real deep insight on how these instances work, how to manipulate the compression and streaming from the cloud to the headset. So we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing without those connections. And with that, with NVIDIA, we've been accepted as an NVIDIA Inception company. So we're in this small umbrella of companies that NVIDIA is really helping get to market fast. And then just countless game developers that we've made partnerships with and worked with. One that I don't think that we've even mentioned on stream or anything yet is a company called Dragon Federation. Really cool VR startup. They their team has cinematographers and movie executives, and they're working on a cinematic VR experience that involves dragons and raising dragons and things like that. But they were kind of at a pause because they didn't know necessarily how to expand that out to a mass market, because again, it requires a lot of rendering capabilities and graphics. And so anyway, through some conversations between the companies, they're going to be making this experience for the abstract where users can have that super cool high graphic dragon fantasy world. So just it's really crazy to see all of this, all these partnerships grow with the company.
Yeah, super exciting. Just as did you say it was called Dragon's Quest?
Dragon
Oh, sorry,
Federation.
Dragon Federation. Sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is this type of streaming, VR gaming, is it available to almost anybody? Are there limitations in terms of, maybe if you're remote, do you have to have a certain speed of internet or bandwidth, or can you go into that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So right now, we call it early access. We are on the SideQuest VR website. That's how you have to get the abstract right now. So there are some hurdles right there, because the user has to have the MetaQuest 2 headset. They have to be able to put their headset into developer mode, which it takes a few steps. But I will say that the SideQuest VR website makes that really simple. So there's a YouTube video right there on the main page where they tell you step by step how to do these things to get your headset ready to download the abstract. But then from there you download the abstract, and there is limitations both on internet bandwidth and as well as location, and distance from our closest server. So, for instance, if you have to have a 50 megabyte or better internet connection, which if you have your typical Spectrum or broadband internet, you're going to have at least a 50 megabyte internet connection. You also have to be within a certain radius of our AWS node, which right now in early access we're only in the US, which we're really working hard to get that outside of the US. I heard a few people from, I think, Australia, which is really, really cool. Um, but, if you go to the website, it'll have you run a ping test to see where you are in relation to our servers. If you have a latency within 60 milliseconds, then you're within the parameters to run and play the abstract. So again, there's a few limiting factors there. You got to have the 50 megabyte or better internet connection. You have to be within 60 milliseconds of latency from our AWS node. But even with those limitations, we're still talking a majority of the United States. I think there's parts of Florida that don't fit into those parameters, but Amazon has told us that they're working to, by the end of 2024, have the entire US close enough to a server to run these experiences. So it's going to grow with Amazon's growth, essentially. But yeah, again, there's some limiting factors there. We're working hard right now to get the number of customers up so that we can show MetaQuest that we have traction, and then at that point they accept you into the native MetaQuest store, which then eliminates all of those barriers that I talked about at the beginning, because then you can just download it right there from the App Store in your headset, no extra steps. So anybody listening that would like to help us help us out. We just have to hit 1,000 customers in this quest to, or in this side quest space. So that involves going to objectiverealityvr.com, signing up for the membership. Right now, it's $10 a month, and we try to keep it as cheap as possible because we are in early access. There are those barriers, so we just want you to get in there and test it out. Let us know what you think. We're constantly trying to fix bugs and streamline the process, but your feedback is always super helpful. But I feel like I'm rambling now, but yeah, there are a few barriers.
No, it's all good. It's really good information because a lot of people aren't really necessarily familiar. We're so used to just being able to go to a site, download a game, and play it. So these little extra steps right now in the short term, yeah, they might be just a little bit, but it's, I'm guessing you could probably figure it out pretty quick in the interim anyway.
Yeah, and if it is something that you're going to do, going to our Discord and getting in our Discord channel is the best way to answer the questions that you might have. Our team is always watching the chat, so if you get on there and say, "Hey, I can't figure out how to book," somebody's going to answer you. But this is early access. This is a proof of concept. There are some steps, but what are you getting for taking those steps? You're getting a better VR gaming experience. You're able to play these experiences that you typically can't play at home, as well as getting the visual qualities and things that are just not capable with the MetaQuest the way it is right now. So it does the benefits outweigh the hassle, in my opinion.
Well, that's great. I'm sure with all of us here, let's make a concerted effort to support our partner, and we'll get that link out there for you on at least my Twitter and a bunch of other people, and we'll hopefully get you some good traction. Yeah,
Appreciate
of
it.
course. And how many titles currently are there to play right now?
So in the VR arcade, we have about 150 different titles. Last I counted. Now that doesn't mean that there's 150 titles in the streaming service right now. We rotate. We have about 50, and we rotate them in and out. And that's just because we are limited on the storage space per instance. So it's about 50 titles, and every month we add new ones. We take some away. We run weekly challenges and tournaments. Our next tournament is going to be in Coffin Rot VR, which is coming up in February. So yeah, we about 150 different VR arcade titles. We are still working on the VR escape room component of the abstract because there's some hurdles there that we really wanted to get customers familiar with the arcade experience before we tried to add in the escape rooms because okay, so for instance, for the escape room you have to have 2 to 4 people, and in this setting the way this works is you'd have to have those players all in the same region, so essentially friends of yours that all live close by, and then you would tell us that, hey, I want to do this escape room. We would do that, but again, it just requires that you have 4 people that close by that want to do it together at home. So we're still kind of thinking through how to best incorporate that and make sure that we do it in a way that isn't going to be confusing to users. So again, for right now, it's simply the VR arcade games, which again are phenomenal in and of themselves. But the escape rooms are coming, and if the escape room was something that anybody listening that wants to try, reach out to me because we are doing active testing on it. So it is something that we could set up for you. It's just again a little confusing, more so than the arcade. So we try to limit the number of people that we do those with.